You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Speaking of guys who are on Twitter, and I know he doesn't manage it himself anymore, but a guy that the guest of the hour, if you will, is joining us on the line right now. That is a guy that I've been looking forward to having on for a long period of time. I can't believe it took this long. Glad to have him on the air. It truly is a treat and an honor. I've been watching you for years. The one and only Rip Rogers is joining us on the line.
Sitting here watching the ball game.
Oh, man, the Giants just rallied big time.
Yeah, okay, I was for Cliff Lee, so it don't matter now. He's done.
There you go. Oh, man. So,
well, maybe it'll be like the Monday night game where the Texas Rangers will have like a late surge in the ninth inning.
Let's talk to wrestling.
All righty. Well, sir, it's great to have you on the show, and of course you're one of the head trainers along with Nick Dinsmore over at Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW. And basically, how are things going over at OVW now?
We're in a survival mode. You know, the whole thing is through OVW, we've sent over 100 people to WWE, and we sent 50 people there that have gotten contracts with them that weren't guys they chose. They were like Armando Estrada, who's living out there in Arizona right now. He come in from Chicago, Illinois with a car with no light, worked 2 jobs. Santino came in, started in the beginner's class, went up to my class and got him a job. But we've had over 50 people get jobs. A lot of them became champions, etc., but they were just living a dream like anybody else.
Is there anybody in particular that you look at and you are really proud that you helped get them to where they are?
Well, anybody, wrestling's not real. It's phony.
Yeah.
So you can be the world's greatest talent and nobody gives you a job. It doesn't matter. You can look great. Sometimes you look too good, no matter what they tell you. Sometimes you wrestle too good. It's like anything else. Sometimes, as long as you're not any good, you're no threat to anybody. If you're any good, it's hard to get a job. I know that sounds stupid, but 33 years in this business, and I've seen it all.
I don't think it sounds stupid at all. I mean, it's that phrase that has been coming out a lot lately with the campaign, and the word is independent contractor. So really, everybody's looking out for everybody's own interests and not the whole group. So really, if somebody comes along that's better than you, your idea is to put, unfortunately, the nix on them, isn't it?
Well, that's in the territorial days. If you're a mask guy and they bring another mask guy in, you don't think you're going to be helping him. If you're a bleach blonde and another bleach blonde comes in, you're not going to be helping him. If you're the only Mexican-American wrestler in the territory and they start looking at another, I don't think you're going to help him. Realistically, you're busting the balls on that.
Oh, man. Well, the reason why we actually thought to have you on is I got so frustrated watching our current product that we have on TV these days, and I started doing what I do every time I go into the mode where I'm kind of questioning why I still bother. And I started watching some of these tapes, and I started watching a tape that I know that I have on the way to you, and that is a match that you had with Cactus Jack on WCW Saturday Night. And I mean, that was a hell of a match. And obviously, we talked a little bit about it off the air, but do you have any recollection of it that you're willing to share on the air?
I just knew I had 11 minutes to go and to bust his balls. Anybody that wrestled me knew they was going to puke, throw up, no matter what. I was going to be on them like a buzzsaw. I probably weighed 200 pounds, and everybody loved working with me because I'd bring out their best, but they also knew that they did what I said. I ran the whole show, and that's the way it was. But I'd get them over.
Yes, sir. And is that kind of the way
now, that's a bit of a lost art in wrestling, actually. We talked about it a little bit off the air, but that's become somewhat of a lost element in wrestling, having the guys that just go out there, make the stars look really good, and put them over in a big way. And that's almost non-existent now. Why do you think that is, and do you think it should make a comeback in wrestling to have those kind of workers like yourself?
Well, I was just so fortunate because I was a big wrestling fan. When I graduated from Seymour High School in 1972, I said I was going to go to college, play football, and be a professional wrestler. So I went to my 10-year reunion. I had bleached blonde hair. I'd been in about 10 physique contests, and I was on TV out of the Louisville market, my hometown of Seymour, Indiana, and I was living the dream. Wouldn't trade it for anybody. I was just lucky enough. There wasn't no wrestling school then. So I was just lucky enough that I was working for Dick the Bruiser part-time. I was working for the old Sheik. I was working Kansas City TV, St. Joe TV, Nick Goulas, Oak Hill, West Virginia, the old WWF TV, you name it. I was going there just to live the life, live the dream. Just put me in, coach. I just want to play the game. But I was basically taught and mentored in this business by the late, great Angelo Poffo and Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo. 99.9 of the stuff I learned in this business was from Randy Savage, who I think is the greatest talent this world has ever seen.
I agree entirely.
His father and his brother. His brother had the greatest punch in this world. You would not believe how much he practiced on that thing.
Lanny?
His dad was the greatest role model. He was 58 years old and did sit-ups the whole hour on television. He was an Iron Man behind the wheel. He worked 365 days a year. We used to run the old ICW territory. We had like 13 TV markets. We were opposition to Barnett, Jarrett, Bob Geigel, Dick the Bruiser, Fuller, you name it. We was against everybody and just ran towns.
And you guys,
sometimes we ran 3 towns in a night.
Wow.
But Angelo Poffo, get behind that wheel, he'd drive 400 miles one way without a break. We were in Southern Illinois. We had the record 16 people in the room. Cost $32. Didn't cost us nothing. Ange picked up the room, but we had 16 people in the room. That was the record.
16 people in one hotel room?
Yeah. I slept under the sink. I woke up and I said I made it. But I was taught everything in this business. This business is not real. Do your best. Do as you're told, or we'll get somebody that will.
There you
go. Work hard. Don't question anybody. If you're paying me, I'm there to please you. And in this wrestling business, which is not a real business, I'm sort of like Sylvester Stallone. Later on, he's in movies now, and he ain't no lead man or whatever. He just loves the business. He just put me in, coach. I want to play. So I went from being the booker in Kansas City, the booker in Puerto Rico, running finishes everywhere and writing TVs, etc., to do enhancement on television. Why? Hell, I just want to play. I just want to have fun. I just want to get out of the house. I want to have a great match. I want to bust somebody's balls. And if you watch any of my matches, you'd never see any of them that were alike or even nearly alike. No. And that's what a real professional can do. He can go out there and take anybody, carry them to a great match, highlight only their strengths, hide their weaknesses, and that's how you do it.
Wow. And
you might ask me a question, and I'll go off on a roll. You know what I mean?
Hey, I encourage it. So you're right, and when we watch the shows now, it seems like guys have almost like a formula of, okay, when this guy wrestles this guy, this is the formula of how the match will go, and there's no real like.
Well, this is, I'm just telling it the way it is. I had a seminar a couple months ago down at OVW. I had 2 guys, the mobile homers, what they were. Now they're going as the elite, but I've had them about 3 years in class. They actually had a 90-minute match in front of the seminars, and then people just shit their pants. No pre-planned bullshit. They know how to wrestle. They know how to work. They know how to tell a story because I drill it in them how to do it. Most of the people that know how to do it did not pass along the knowledge. That don't care, or they're dead. Hey, we ran Campbellsville, Kentucky, Ohio Valley Wrestling did.
Right.
We had a babyface tag team, our Broadway, that people went absolutely nuts. They'd never seen nothing like it. A babyface match tag team.
Wow.
The place is just going crazy. They got a standing ovation at the end. It's just so Everything that's old is new.
You think that's where we're going? We have become cyclical? Have become full circle?
Well, that's like it's a big deal to run a Wildcat in the NFL, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Sure is, but that's old. But that's old stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So, and in the wrestling business, it's so funny. If you know anything, you know who George Mikan was. One of the pioneers of the NBA, the old ABA commissioner. He was the Wilt Chamberlain before Wilt Chamberlain, scoring champ about 5 times, averaged between 28 and 30 points a game, blah, blah, blah. He was a lawyer, and he died a pauper. Shaq had to bury him. So in other words, just because you make money don't mean you're any good in anything. When I was a kid, all the major leaguers, the NFLers, the pro basketball, hell, they all had jobs in the off season. That was before free agency and everything. They were just making a living, and they were loving the game. You know, it's so sad. We used to wrestle every day of the year except Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Sometimes twice on Saturday, sometimes twice on Sunday. I remember working for Ron Fuller. We had the double shot I worked the double shot for Bill Watts Sunday afternoon, Oklahoma City, drive to Tulsa, back to Shreveport. Next day I had 311 miles of 2-lane on Highway 171 going to New Orleans.
Wow.
We'd work for 4. We'd work Birmingham at night, but we'd work like Knoxville, Tennessee in the afternoon. You'd work your match, jump in your car, keep your stuff on, and hope to make it there on time. And those were the days. That's when wrestling was wrestling, and I wouldn't trade nothing for nothing. All the memories, all the stuff I've done, the stuff I've seen, the stories I could tell you. Oh my God.
And you were around some of the most colorful characters that we ever saw. I mean, yourself being, you know, a guy with a double ponytail and pink tights. I mean, a character yourself. So.
Well, that's what's so funny. I go out there and work for them guys, or like it was WCW or whatever, right?
Right.
And they got hot because I was looking like a star more than the stars were. And I would say, well, whose fault is that? You know. But in the wrestling business, I remember I was 30 years old when Bob Roop told me. You know who Bob Roop is?
Absolute legend, yes, sir.
He used to ride with me in Atlanta, and he said, Rip, he says, you're 30 years old now, and you look great. You really understand this business. Now you're going to have a hard time getting a job. I said, what are you talking about? He said, oh, no, you know it too good now. Now people are intimidated by you. So now you got to do a halfway crazy persona, like you're an idiot or whatever, right?
Oh, boy.
It's like in 1993, I was running the developmental towns for Ole Anderson. I was the only wrestler he ever let do that.
Wow.
Here I was the promoter. I'd work the first match. They'd pay me extra for being the timekeeper, getting the ring jacket, the announcer. I was the agent. I was the promoter. I'd get all those payoffs, right?
Right.
And then when Bischoff come in, he said he'd rather lose $250,000 running a show in the Astrodome than make a profit in a high school and let everybody know they're big league. Well, it's like Angelo Poffo told me. We'll do what we think because it's our money. It's easy to spend somebody else's money, but when you're spending your own money, it's a different story. So the only people that really have respect for the business is people when you're putting your own money in this stuff, not somebody with a backer, somebody else with somebody else's money. Oh, I just feel so sorry for that woman at TNA.
Dixie Carter?
Yeah, she's just a fan, and they just took all the money. That'd be like me being in the wrestling business for 33 years, and all of a sudden I want to run a restaurant. You know, don't have a clue. And no, I'm going to be hey, I think I should be an NBA coach because, hey, I watched basketball for years.
Hey, that's an argument we had earlier this year.
And I'm a great, I watch General Hospital every day. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a movie critic. I watched all these movies.
Right. I mean, you've. I think that's unfortunately what the internet, to some degree, and maybe even this show is guilty of it, of assuming that we do know everything just because we have access.
No, and you know how I talk.
Yes, sir.
And don't take it personally.
I won't take it personally.
But all you people are retards. It's like me.
Why would I take that personally?
Yeah, that's like That's like me having an opinion about the Texas Rangers, right?
Right.
You know, we got Ron Washington, these guys that have paid their dues. They live every minute in baseball. Oh, that was a stupid move. He shouldn't have done that. You don't think he's thought and overthought a million times and has got a million more knowledge? Anybody that's an expert in their field, and we have an opinion. You know, that's like somebody knocking Brock Lesnar. I said, how can you knock this champion? I said, in baseball, you get 3 hits out of 10 and you're a genius. You know,
there you go.
Nobody's undefeated in anything. That's why they play the games. They play the games because they don't know who's going to win.
There you go. And, I mean, you've mentioned some of the territories you worked for, and, you know, Bill Watts' Mid-South territory, and up in, I think they called it Big Time Wrestling up in Detroit. I mean, you worked.
I worked for here's how the Sheik would get you. You come in for TV, and then you do Kobo, right? So, well, next time I'll get you, right? I'll pay you then. But then, so as soon as you quit going, he owed you, right? You'd never see it. But I didn't care. I got to meet Oscar Verdue. I got to meet Ox Baker. I got to meet Harley Race. Blah blah blah. You know, I didn't even. You know, when I got in the wrestling business, money never had a thought. You know, you didn't think about the money. You just wanted to be a wrestler. You know, I don't think when Pete Rose started playing baseball, it was to make all this money. It was he just loved baseball, and I just love wrestling. Just like a lot of y'all. And now they get these guys that aren't even wrestlers and don't have any desire or anything, and they make them, hey, you can't knock somebody for making them all this money, whether it's movies or dolls or lunch boxes or whatever they're doing. That's great. But, you know, I just think, you know, I had a passion for wrestling. I lived wrestling 24 hours a day, you know, and that's just the way it was. It's just, you know, and they work so hard. Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, never have a day off. I worked 186 days in a row for Bill Watts. You know, that's the way it was, on 2 lanes. You know, and, you know, it's like when WWE went big, wrestling was never broke. You know, we was having 3 or 4 Superdome shows a year for Bill Watts, and he was doing 33,000 people in New Orleans, but they ran New Orleans every week. Memphis was averaging 9,000 people a week. Louisville was 6,000 people a week. Every territory was that way. It was just, and they were conditioned like you go to Vern Gagne's, they'd have a 2-hour show in a 4-match format. You were used to all that, you know.
Right.
The wrestling was the draw. You go to the ring with no music, you know. Oh, the heels would have riots. You get your tires slit, whatever, blah blah blah. But like when I started, Paul Christie worked for Dick the Bruiser. Right. I'd work with Lanny Poffo in Nashville in a big tournament. So they booked me out to the Maritimes. This is how the wrestling business was. When I got done with the Maritimes, Randy Savage booked me into Nashville. When I was done with Nashville, his dad booked me into George C. Calkin down in Mississippi, and Frankie King was the booker down there, who was Skandar Akbar's half-brother. From there, I made the original ICW tape with all the Poffos and them. Ronnie Garvin come in, Dean Malenko's dad come in, Randy Orton's dad come in. I got to work with, I used to ride with Bob, Randy's grandpa, the Big O, and to be around these guys, and I just soaked up their knowledge. They were just, you know, they knew how to be pros, and I'm just a stupid kid. I'm the lowest guy there, and they told me this, kid, until you've been in the business about 10 years, just shut up. You don't know nothing. And that's what I tell everybody else. You ain't got a clue. I'm not interested in your opinion. You're a retard in wrestling.
I love it.
If I ramble, excuse me. But then, you know, and from there, Lanny Poffo booked me out for Don Owens, so I got to team up with Playboy Buddy Rose and work with Roddy Piper, Adrian Adonis, Ron Starr, Rick Martel, Stan Stasiak, all these guys out there, Johnny Mantell, Lord Jonathan Boyd, the Bushwhackers. They were the sheep herders then.
Yes, exactly.
There.
Wow. So,
and I got to be Buddy Rose's tag team partner. So it's just the Colonel the Beers, Ed Laskowski was out there. From there, I went back to ICW for 3 years, and I went to work for Bill Watts. He booked me into shots to work for Frizz for big payoffs, so I could get to work against Mil Mascaras because nobody else wanted to work with him, and I'd put him over, and I didn't give a shit.
Well, why didn't anybody want to work with Mil Mascaras?
Oh, he wouldn't sell. He's just a prima donna. I don't know why. It doesn't matter to me. Just pay me. You take everything as a challenge.
Right.
This guy's rotten. Well, I'll have a good match with him. Well, everybody's scared of Vader. Let me have him. I'll show you how to do it. Ron Simmons, we're scared of him. Well, let me show you how to match with. I can have a match with anybody. If you just listen to me, I can pull out your strengths and hide your weaknesses. It will be a contest. I'll tell you that. It will be you'll be fighting for your life.
Right.
I'll beat the shit out of you, but at the end, I'll get your finish hold over, and that's all we need. Get that over. No matter where I was at, I'd have different finish holds, and nobody ever got out of my finish hold ever. If I had a 2 out of 3 fall match, I took mine with mine. You took yours with yours. Now it's 1-to-1. Then we work whatever you want to do, but we kept our finish holds good. Never in my life have I kicked out or anybody kick out with a gimmick to fool somebody. Never. Never have I put a shoulder up. It's a kick out. You try and kick out and you flail, but you can't get it. You're beat, but you're trying a kick out, not a shoulder stuff, and not 999 false finishers for no reason. And if you have a false finish, it's got to tell a story. It's got to be backdrop, sunset flip, slam. So the people got to know slam, go behind schoolboy, slam, kick their leg, slam, small package. It's got to be simple where a 5th grader can understand it. Not gray, but black and white. Good guy, bad guy. If everybody's gray, it used to be you'd watch TV for 10 years, the guy's a good guy. He turns evil one time, and that's it. Or vice versa. Now, you could turn on TV every other week. You don't know what they are.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't know what side they're supposed to be anymore.
Yeah, if there's only Coca-Cola, I guess you'll drink Coca-Cola and nothing else if you get thirsty, right?
There you go, yeah.
I know I'm rambling. Then I got to work I worked for Ron Fuller for 11 months, and I worked for Ole Anderson for 8 months. Went down to Tampa for 5 months there, then went and worked for Jared Jarrett. And I worked for Jared Jarrett, and I went back to Birmingham for Ron Fuller. After Ron Fuller, I went to Bob Geigel. Then I went to South Africa. I went to Japan, the old Cuban assassin, Angel Lancevita, the original. I met him in 1977 in Oak Hill, West Virginia. He got me booked up for a couple tours with Calgary.
Wow.
88, I didn't wrestle in the States. 89, I didn't wrestle in the States. I was in Puerto Rico, and the Bahamas, and Japan.
There you go.
In 90, I went back to Japan. 92, I went to Japan. I went to Germany. I went to Austria. I went to England, and just did a little bit with WCW. When I'd come home, I'd just call them up and go right back to doing whatever there. I'd make every TV. I'd bring guys. If I wanted to work, I did. If I didn't want to, didn't have to. It was fun. It was just fun.
And you said a myriad of things that I wanted to kind of exploit here and take it with you. And you were talking about a lot of the guys that come into the business and don't love the business, and maybe they were brought in because they did have a good body, but no love of the business, or maybe they didn't.
Well, yeah, but you can go to any small town America and pull out guys with good bodies. That's irrelevant.
Right.
But
as a trainer, when you have to are confronted with these guys who clearly don't have the heart, the compassion, they
don't last with me.
They don't last with you.
No, I break them.
You break them.
no, they're puking in a bucket in 10 minutes.
Do you get enjoyment? Is there kind of a sick, twisted enjoyment out of doing that too?
Well, all the other guys know what's coming, especially when guys tell me they're good. I remember I used to teach the WWE guys. I remember the rib was, I'd say, go in the ring. Now, you can't pre-plan bullshit and have a match as long as you can. It usually lasts 3 minutes. Then I'd have one of my guys, take a girl in the ring and have them go an hour. They'd be so mad. They'd be so embarrassed.
Wow.
You're embarrassed enough. No, I'm showing you that you are rotten, but look what you can learn if you got the right attitude. But as soon as you pay somebody to learn, you think you're over. You think you're good. You're walking around with your lats out, going to the tanning bed, going to the tit bar and hanging out and getting drunk. But that's America, I guess.
There you go. And last week I kind of got burned. There's a site called Wikipedia. I know you're not that familiar with the internet, but they kind of have the encyclopedia on everyone, and you're on there. And one of the comments. What's that again?
But the good rip. Somebody told me about that stuff, and it's got so much shit that's wrong on there. Not
exactly. And there was one thing that's on there that I actually wanted to bring up and probably disprove, and that is that you left ICW because of a verbal dispute with Randy Savage, and based on your compliments towards Randy, I can't imagine that being the case.
No. I did leave because of a verbal dispute. You got to remember, at this time, Randy was the greatest undiscovered talent in the world.
Right.
We lived together. We had been like best buddies for years, right?
Right.
There's nobody in this world I looked up to more as a friend, as a training partner, as a role model. He was the hardest worker. He wrote the TVs. He did the bookings. He did the finishes. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Randy was also high stress. You will also yell at your brother and say things that you won't say to somebody else. And Randy was the guy that pushed me in wrestling to make me good. He was the guy that taught me this business. He was the guy that pushed me in the physique contest, or I would have never got into him. He knew how to push buttons, and I was just so laid back and lazy and mediocre that he could turn me into greatness. That's what he did.
Wow.
And sometimes it's time to get away from little brother and go on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I found out. Now this is years later, right? Because I was upset for years because what it was I wasn't mad. He hurt me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I looked up to him more than anybody in the wrestling business. I thought he was the greatest. He was the greatest. He had forgot more wrestling. And this guy was such a great athlete. He was drafted to be in the major leagues, right?
Yeah.
His first year,
right.
and him and Eddie Murray, they tied the rookie league for most home runs.
Wow.
Then they cut him. Okay, now they cut him, right? So they told him he wanted a left-handed first baseman. So you know what that crazy guy did?
What did he do?
He went out and threw a ball across up against a wall 1,500 times a day. Reported to spring training as a left-handed first baseman.
Wow.
And could throw the ball there. What it was, they were scared of him. and they shit their pants. And they said, well, we want you to make that throw to second sidearm. In other words, it was just an excuse. Eddie Murray, who hit 500 home runs in the major leagues, right?
Right.
And here was Randy, weighing about $175, tied him. Hell, he was a quarterback in high school. He was an honor roll student. This guy was so sharp. It was just unbelievable. So you got to remember, anybody you see, they're all playing a character. And you don't let anybody see. This guy was the greatest guy as far as helping people, teaching the business, being a role model, hard-working, sacrifice, learned from his dad. And he was just the greatest they was just the greatest wrestling family I'd ever been around. Hell, their mother would do my hair, cook me steak dinners. His dad liked me because I worked hard. I shut up and did what I was told. I was in my early 20s, and they asked me to buy into their company, right? And Piper, I was in Portland. Piper was going to put me in L.A., and they got mad because I didn't really want to go back. I wanted to play a while. I didn't want to worry about being a promoter and really learn the business. I wanted to have a good time, you know. But anyway, we got off the subject, whatever that was.
There you go. So how is your relationship with Randy now?
I don't really know. The last time I saw him was about 1995. He come into WCW, and I didn't know it was. I didn't. It was a matter of no handshake, and I was just like dumbfounded. I know I wasn't friendly. I was sort of aloof and everything. But it's so funny. I heard where he got married to Lynn Payne. Now I'm going to be the only guy in the world to know this, but Randy, that was his true love, was Lynn Payne. Because when he was a baseball player, she was his girlfriend. And like lost touch, and she married this guy named Pete from Pete's Paints or whatever. I used to rib him about. He'd sort of chuckle and get upset, but that was always the girl he loved, and that was always his first love. And I'm just so glad that Randy was just so uptight and stressed. I don't think he was ever really happy, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad he reconnected with her and found happiness. And I wished I still, you know, I looked up to him like a god and an idol. I always did.
There you go.
You know, we would get into like skirmishes, and hell, this guy was so talented, he could have whooped my ass anytime he wanted to. He would take it easy on me.
There you go. I did want to ask you, one of the things that again, I have quite a few Mid-South discs and all that stuff, and I grew up watching this stuff in the mid-'80s to late 80s and all that. But one of the things I remember was a match you had with a very, very young Buff Bagwell, Marcus Alexander Bagwell. He was the handsome stranger. This was in Global.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott Anthony.
I beat the shit out of him, right?
You did.
What I took a guy who was obviously green. I put him over with his finishing hold, didn't I?
Yes, you did. I think it was the fisherman suplex.
Because anytime he had to think on his own, he had phony kicks, he had phony punches, he didn't have a clue. So I just stayed on him, ate him up, and then when the time was right, I laid down for him and got his hold over. And he got over as being a tremendously selling babyface, getting the shit beat out of him, and still coming back with enough moxie to beat a guy with his finish hold. And that's the way I look at it.
There you go. I think they were building him at the time for a feud with Scott Levy, who later became Raven. At the time, he was Scott Anthony. Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, I don't remember the match he had with Scott Anthony, but I do remember the match he had with you. So what does that tell you?
Well, pretty much everybody remembers all these matches I have with guys. Well, anyway, here's the thing. WCW, I used to put my hair in all different things, right?
Right.
And they told me to do it because it was taken away from the stars, and I wasn't allowed to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yeah, I mean that.
Sometimes you can look too tan. Sometimes you can look too good. A lot of times you're told not to do things, you know, and that's, you know, and you just got to go with the flow. So
this might be a stupid question, and if I sound stupid for asking it, you are perfectly within your rights to call me a retard. But asking you about that, saying that, oh, well, you look too much like a star. Well, did anybody not stop and think, well, you know, if he gets this stuff, which you say you do, and clearly you did. I mean, your best matches were with a lot of guys had their best matches with you, and really good matches, and they always look like they accomplished something when they beat you. Did they ever just think, well, if he looks like a star and he can work like a star, why don't we just make him a star?
I don't get caught into their politics. I didn't care.
Really?
Usually I never asked for a job. People would call. I was booked in Puerto Rico because somebody else threw a tape in there and I was on it. So a lot of places say, well, hey, we've seen you do this. I was in Calgary working for Stu Hart, and I was on the TSN, so Rene Dupre's dad, Emil, called me at the hotel. He said, you work with Leo in Calgary. I said, yeah. He said, oh, I really like working with you. I said, yeah, well, you know. I said, how's it going, Emil? You still with Paula? He goes, what do you mean? I said, Emil, I worked for you in the summer of 1978. I said, I was Hercules Samard. He goes, oh, holy Jesus. I said, boy, I was a shit one night. And he just laughed. I said, well, I got a little bit better. He goes, you sure did. Well, this is so funny. Now the Poffos went out there and co-promoted with them, with Emil Dupre in the summer of 78. And I'm working with Randy, and he's pulling 30 minutes with me. And I am the worst wrestler in the history of wrestling. He could pull 30 minutes with me, which is unbelievable. I didn't go to wrestling school. There wasn't any. You know, all I did was watch TV. There wasn't no cable TV, so I just saw Dick the Bruiser wrestling and Louisville wrestling. If you get the TV antenna right, you get the Sheik's wrestling. And so I just imitate moves I see on TV, bullshit my way in, got my Carl and Hildegard gear, bullshit my way in, and I was off and running. Wow.
There you go. And you know, here you are now. You're still in the business, and again, possibly something they got wrong, but I read something that said that you had to retire from in-ring wrestling due to a car accident. Is that accurate?
Oh, that was in 2003. I was working for WWE. I was driving to Louisville every day. But in the meantime, I was working at UPS for insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Oh, wow. So you were double dutying.
Yes. And so some woman, it was sleeting. To make a long story short, she hit and run on me. I got her driver. I got her blah, blah, blah. Of course, she quit. She was a female. She was a lesbian. She was of a darker hue. She was, all of a sudden, she quit. And she said, well, shit happens, you know. Driving somebody else's car with no insurance, with no driver's license. And you know what happened to her?
What happened to her?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Now, here I am. Now my knees, they wanted me to get a knee and a couple of hips and et cetera, right?
Yes, sir.
And I didn't want to do it because thinking it was downtime, they'll just get rid of me. So they ended up getting rid of me a couple of years later, which is whatever. You know, you don't have, you know, in the NFL running back and a WWE superstar have got the same shelf life, about 3.2 years. And that's also considering you've got Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Triple H, and whatever. So it's really about 2.7 years in their senior act.
Yeah.
So you don't have much longevity in there. So anyway, a couple of years ago, it just really started to hit me. So my hips are bad, my knees bad, my shoulders bad. So it feels I've fallen, I can't get up. If I get on the toilet, now I have to get up, you know.
Oh, man.
So it's pretty pathetic. So
years of wrestling didn't, you know, bang you up that bad, but this car accident really crushed you?
Right. No, I was training 5 hours a day when I got hit, and I was 49 years old then.
Oh, wow.
So
when you train now, I mean, when you train these guys at OVW, do you get in the ring or?
I can't.
You can't? Okay.
No. I say, show them what I want.
Who do you tell, Nick Dinsmore or?
No, the guys that have been with me a while.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I don't get to see Nick. Nick teaches the beginners program.
Yes, sir.
And then they come up to me.
Very cool.
So he gets them in the basics real good, and then I yell, scream, call them every name in the book, and I say when I quit screaming at you, that means I don't care.
Really?
So,
okay.
Oh yeah, I mean I said filter out all the cuss words and just listen to what I'm telling you. And I ain't got time to explain it to you.
Well, we said we'd have you on for about 20 minutes. We've gone way over that, and we apologize for that. We hope that you don't mind. But I have just a couple more questions for you. You have time to take them?
Sure. I'm just sitting here.
Sure. All right. We've kind of gotten on a little bit of a talk about how you train the guys and things like that, and how you can get them to go and do 60 minutes. And you think it's hard on them to have to play into now learning what you've learned and learning how to do things the right way and the way that would work to have to go and put it into the WWE formula?
I haven't watched WWE TV since 2005. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Maybe an hour total, flicking something over, then I see something that I cringe at, you know, and I can't take it, so I don't watch it. And I also miss it so much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it hurts you to watch it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you really love something, you're addicted to something or whatever, you just don't really want to watch it.
Yeah.
But I teach the guys my style, and I tell them, you're not going to see this on television. So I said, I'm going to teach you this way, which I believe is the right way. And then if you get a chance to get up there, forget it all. Now, you'll be able to pull it out if need be, but if you do exactly as the agents tell you, then they can't get mad because you're doing exactly as they say.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, because, you know, your style was always they tell you what they want and you go and do it. And, I mean, you like you said, never had the same match twice. And when you go up there, they seem like they kind of plug you into a formula where you have a, 4 or 5 minute match. And, realistically, the move sets are kind of set. You don't see guys venture away from what they typically do.
Yeah, see, they're into that clothesline bump feed bullshit. You know what that is?
Yeah.
It's like Stan Hansen hits somebody at the clothesline, it's a carry out.
Right.
If Bradshaw hits you the clothesline, that's it. If Jake Roberts would DDT you, that's it.
There you go.
Wasn't it? So you learn to sell less in everything. Less is better, and you don't want to get caught into. That's like who'd have thought Clifford Lee would have given up all these runs tonight, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they play a game. Now they told everybody wrestling is not real. Now if you can go out there and make them think your match sort of is, then you're really good, aren't you? We all know a movie is not real, but I'm screaming and yelling when he's got Clubber Lang staggering when Rocky does, and they knock him on his ass.
There you go.
Everybody's cheering, and you know it's a movie because you're caught up into it. That's like I teach simple wrestling. I teach anchors. You got a head, you got an arm, you got a leg, you got a neck, you got a back, you got a stomach. Or you got meat chop, just beat the shit out of them. Now, when you watch television, now this is how simple wrestling is. The greatest heel of all time was Buddy Rogers. He invented everything.
Original Nature Boy.
Yeah, in 1991, I went to New York for some convention, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I got out of my car, and Buddy yells, "Rip, come here." And I look left, look right, look behind me. Me? He goes, "Yeah, come here." I like shit my pants, right? Because Angelo Poffo told me stories about him all these years and stuff, right?
Right.
So he's bullshitting. He's about 7. This is right before he had that stroke. He died the next year or whatever. So he had the diamond rings on, had the bleached blonde hair. He was tan. He was shaved. He was strutting, looking good. He was just unbelievable, right?
Right.
Now, personally, he might have been a prick, but I don't care. As far as psychology in the wrestling business, that's all I cared about.
Exactly.
It's like you watch a match, a 2 out of 3 fall match with Pat O'Connor. He made the best of the baby faces. There was never a kick out. He'd get his foot on the rope. They hit him one time. He sold it like his nose was broke. This guy was just so good. Instead of watching, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It was just really good.
Light tunes and all that crap.
Well, that's just like today. I watch Turner Classic movies, black and white, usually the 40s to the 50s, and you'll watch a camera shot. Sometimes they'll go 38 seconds, a minute on the same camera, right?
Yeah.
Now everything is no acting at all. Flash, camera change. Now, I don't even want to get caught up into hardcore wrestling, okay? I told everybody, if you have no talent, you do hardcore wrestling, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there you go. But what I was going to say is that even the guys that, regardless of our personal opinions of them, and we are one of the more negative towards the guys, even though we respect him more than most. Even Ric Flair, he was on this show and he was saying much the same thing about hardcore wrestling. But then, less than a year later, he's in the ring, getting chokeslammed on the thumbtacks and stuff like that. And I don't quite, is it an unavoidable thing?
No. Now, here's the thing. Remember now. Rick is an employee. If your boss suggests that you do this, right, strongly, and he's paying you big money for something that's not real, right?
Right.
Just do it. He did. That's like when I remember I had to work with the Nasty Boys 4 or 5 matches in a row because they'd tell them to beat me. The Nasty Boys didn't want to because we had too much fun in the ring. And they knew if they beat me, they didn't beat me, I could work them again the next time and make it look great,
There you go.
But so Ric Flair, was just could really go, would not blow up,
There you go.
Great performance. But as far as the hardcore stuff, I don't believe in gauntlet matches. What they call 3-way dance. Hey, I know. Hey, the Clippers are playing Portland right now. In a minute, the Knicks are going to sneak in the 3-way dance. Can you imagine how stupid that is? Or, hey, Muhammad Ali's fighting Joe Frazier, and after he fights him, he's going to fight George Foreman. And after he fights him, he's going to fight Sugar Ray Leonard. a three-way dance.
Wow.
Please, believability is everything, right?
There you go.
That's we ran a spot show in Indianapolis one, and I told Lance Cade, I said, Lance.
Oh man, yeah.
Lance Cade he was so good, right?
Oh, he was actually somebody. Very few people in this business. You know, when I do this interview with you, I'm going to send you your disc, obviously, and all that. And, you know, maybe I'll call you in a little while and make sure you're okay and all that. But for the most part, we're not going to become best of friends, and that's not an insult. That's just the way things go. Lance was one of the few people that after I interviewed him, I stayed in contact with, and that hurts me deep down.
Yeah, he was a tremendous performer. And the problem with all them guys in developmental or in wrestling, you can't take a guy off the street, put him in developmental, whatever, blah, 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 and all of a sudden you're a major TV star, people recognize you, buy you shit, want to be your buddy, you're from the non-coast, you get inside of town, all of a sudden women are throwing themselves at you, you didn't have a dime in your fucking pocket, all of a sudden you got money, you can't handle this. It's like in the old days, you'd start in working underneath, doing jobs on TV, get to work some territories, and in about 10 years, you'd be ready for Charlotte, Atlanta, Vern Gagne, WWF, or whatever. They're taking guys off the street, you know, giving them practices, and all of a sudden they're supposed to be, hey, you ever watch, hey, I watched a lot of basketball. I never played it before, but in 3 months I want to play in the NBA All-Star game.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. You know.
Yep. I mean, Lance was one of the guys that, even though he was WWE homegrown, he stayed there a while before they pulled him up, and he seemed to be more polished than a lot of the other guys.
Oh, he was. Well, hell, he was broke in by Shawn Michaels, and he was so talented to begin with as babyface and heel, had a great attitude, worked hard. Well, anyway, what I was getting at, in the business, in the wrestling, you're fighting boredom. Now, I took mine up with training.
Right.
Now, if you're training all day, you can't get into trouble.
There you go.
You know? So, I didn't drink alcohol. I took steroids 3 weeks in my life, but I wasn't doing. I wanted to see what would happen. I left Tampa in '85. I went and lived in Lexington, Kentucky, and for 3 weeks I did one shot of DECA just to see what would happen. Now here I was, 32 years old, the prime of life, training like a bastard. I weighed 222. 3 weeks later, I weighed 248.5.
Wow!
With a shot of DECA. Now I got so strong I tore my bicep trying to cheat curl 12 for 225 on the 12th set, which is impossible. As you can tell, I'm obsessive compulsive. So if I'd have done anything like that, I'd have been dead. And all the buddies that took steroids that I ran with, they're all dead. And I think there's 10 guys in Calgary used to ride in the bands. They're all dead.
Wow.
And this was like 22 years ago.
Yeah, that's what we had. I don't know if you ever. Well, you don't. You know her, Missy Hyatt. We had her on when she was doing a tribute with us for Luna Vachon, and she said that she worked it out on paper one night, and she said that if she would have gone to war, her platoon would have more people survive than the people that she started with in the wrestling business.
Yeah,
mathematically,
it's sad. But they did what they wanted to do. You know what I mean? And here I am, 56 years old, beat up, can't hardly move, thousands of dollars in debt, not a dime to my name. And you got the young guys making all this money and they're rotten, right? But then I'm watching these Major League Baseball players with watered down. It ain't like it used to be. 8 to 10 teams in 2 leagues. Now they got 33 teams or whatever the hell is. So in other words, you got AA baseball players making $10 million. They're not even 500 pitchers with a 5-something ERA. You know, guys striking out 100 times. And oh well. Now I'm a bitter old man.
Well, that kind of is our last question. And unless Patrick or Nick want to jump in with something, but the business now, obviously, everything changes, and TV as a whole, you know, in the late 70s, early 80s, you had Three's Company, and now you have 2.5 Men, and, if you compare the innuendo of one to the other, obviously one is much more crass than the other, and wrestling business has become, more of a variety show like Saturday Night Live, unfortunately, than a sports show. And do you see an avenue when it's going to turn back to actually resembling a sports-based show instead of an entertainment-based show?
A couple of years ago, I was doing WCW wrestling with my class, and I made it all wrestling. Boring wrestling. If I took TNA now, I'd have boring wrestling, and every match would mean something. A guy's finish hole would be put over. This guy's on a winning streak. This guy's on a losing streak. There would be finishers. Almost every match would be a submission. They might poke the guy in the eye one time, which would lead to a clip and then a figure four. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Everything would mean something, and it would be a contest again. And you might lose ratings for a while, but then again, you would slowly build it up of hardcore wrestling fans. But then again, I don't know if you're going for ratings, if you're going for touring, if you're going for pay. I don't know what your business plan is, right?
Right.
So you just don't. It's like I had a guy. Only this guy. I said, when this guy gives a clothesline, it's a carry out. It's like in everybody else. If somebody was using a clothesline, nobody else did it. If somebody was using a figure four, nobody else did it. Now, if you wanted to say, okay, you guys can go ahead and do it, but the announcers are going to hit that you don't do it as good as this guy, and yours ain't any good. You might as well not do it.
There you go. That's right. Yeah. Oh man.
But I could talk all night, all day. So feel free to have me on any time.
I got to tell you, I'm going to probably take you up on that because I thoroughly have enjoyed talking to you, and it really is a treat. Have you ever thought about doing a book?
Well, Brian Alvarez writes Figure 4 Weekly.
That's right. Yes, sir.
He come in from my WCW TV, I don't know how many years ago, and I worked the thing off our TV show. He was sending in clips, DVDs, and whatever. He flew in and worked an hour match. This guy sight unseen.
He worked.
Yeah, with Ted McNaylor. So I got it on DVD, and they had an hour match, and they had to finish right before we went off the air. And they carried him out right with the submission.
Wow.
But they'd never seen anybody before, and I said, okay, Chico, you were trained by Buddy Wayne. He's one of my best friends. Talk to him almost daily. And I said, you trained by him, which I know you got it. You get it.
Right.
So just shut up, do what he tells you to do, and you'll be fine. So that's what he did, and the match was just fucking unbelievable, considering they'd never seen each other or whatever, right?
Right.
So anyway, Brian, I was talking to him about doing a book. But I don't know about a book because unless you get somebody to really publicize, most of these books are just trash. Now, I got the dirt on everybody, but you don't, I don't want to ruin everybody's home life. What really, everybody sugarcoats it, and, this and that, and you don't want to tell what really goes on because it's what really went on was too heavy for anybody. And now that I'm older and I got a 13-year-old, it's you don't.
There you go.
But you could write a book, but everybody writes a book now, so a book don't mean anything. When the books first came out, they meant something. But I don't think they mean anything right now. And I think the only people would read them, they'd be old enough to already been dead 20 years ago. Book.
There you go. Well, sir, I got to tell you, speaking for myself, and I'm sure for the other guys on the show too, who've kind of been just in awe of letting me take care of it.
Is this like on the internet or is this on the?
This is on right now. We are on WrestlingEpicenter.com. This is on the internet, just the internet. We used to be on AM radio back in 2005 and 2006. Actually, ironically, Missy Hyatt used to be one of our hosts, as well as Francine from the old WCW days. Yeah.
It was so funny. Missy was always like scared of me.
Was she?
Oh yeah, She knew I was out there, and I'm just playing a character. You know what I mean?
Yes. Wow. I
mean, I would do stuff just to wind guys up.
Wow.
Just as a rib because I knew. Well, this guy. You got to remember, I've been in the business how many years, and you got these greenhorns coming in, right?
Yeah.
That's like somebody played Major League Baseball 15 years, and they got some guy coming up as a rookie, so you're going to screw with him, right?
Yeah, you're going to hate him. Yeah, you're going to.
Yeah, you're just having fun with him is all you're doing.
Yeah.
And you do it so much that they're scared of you. They think you're nuts. You know what I mean? It's all in fun. It's all a rib.
There you go. Well, sir, thank you so much. I'll make sure, I'll be in touch in the next couple of days just to make sure you get the discs and all that, and that everything's cool. Okay.
The main thing is get me that Mankind match, that Cactus Jack match.
Yes, sir. I will do.
That's the main thing, because I can't find that thing. I think I threw it out when I had the flood in the basement.
Oh,
and no, on the Wikipedia thing, you didn't have arguments with Randy. You didn't have an opinion. he expressed his, and that was it. I didn't dare say nothing back to him.
Oh man, well, thanks so much, man, and we'll see you next time around. And I'll be in contact in the next couple of days. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the game. Is the game over, by the way, or?
I don't know. I flipped over to the Portland and the Clippers game on basketball.
There you go. Yeah, it was pretty much a blowout. So.
Okay.
Take it easy, sir. Thanks so much.
Have a good day.
Thanks. Man, that was Rip Rogers on the show tonight, and I got to tell you, I really was looking forward to that one, and I hope everybody else enjoyed it too.
He told some good stories there. I like that.
I think we're going to have him on again. He would be the kind of guy that I wouldn't mind having on somewhat regularly. Obviously, maybe not for quite as long as this time, but, man, I really enjoyed it.
Didn't actually go as long as he did again. I mean,
that was good. I mean, it was long, but it was good. I enjoyed his stories, and, I mean, there's not many people in the world I'm willing to accept being called a retard by, but...
Yeah, no offense, but you all are retards.
Not for nothing. Not for nothing. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, you're a bunch of fucking stoonads, you know what I mean? No offense.
None taken.
What?
No, he said none taken.
Yep.
Oh, man.
But getting to something that I did not enjoy, which, I didn't watch it, but I read the results. Bragging rights. What a piece of shit that pay-per-view sounded like.
Yeah, and I just want to make this point. Earlier today, WWE announced that they're doing theme Raws in the next couple weeks. Okay. One of which be King of the Ring. Now, here's my thought. Which would we, as much as we kind of deride WWE booking, which would we rather see? The return of King of the Ring, which actually to a certain extent makes sense. Guys fight in the tournament to claim to be the king of wrestling or the best wrestler in that group, or another crappy ceremony where guys win a cup.
Exactly. And with the King of the Ring, what a lot of people kind of underestimated with the King of the Ring tournament is that it decided the next major challenger unofficially. But, Bret Hart was already a world champion, but Owen Hart, he got the world title shot at SummerSlam. Mabel, which as bad of a decision that was, he got the world title shot at SummerSlam. Austin would eventually feud with Bret Hart, and we all know how big he became. So
Triple H.
It's a very good way to move somebody up the rankings to have a King of the Ring tournament.
And it brings back that level of sports that we just talked about with Rip. It makes it feel like it's a competition. The wins and losses in that sense do matter more than how good the match was. People will not remember how good the match was in that case. They'll only remember, okay, in this round, Cody Rhodes defeated Ted DiBiase.
Well,
they had a 5-star match. Because not everyone is going to be. Even, look at the Giants and Cowboys. On paper, that should have been a great game. And even though the Giants, stopped playing in the fourth quarter, and there's really no other way of putting it. They just kind of stopped playing.
I was pissed off at the end.
It was a good game, but the Giants eventually kind of ran away with it. And, in theory, on paper, talent-wise, it should have been really pretty damn close.
Right, but you have a Giants that are hot and cold. They play really good some weeks, and then they go a couple weeks where they play horribly, and then you have the Giants, which have a head coach that looks like an Alzheimer's patient.
The Giants or the Cowboys?
What?
The Cowboys, I meant. Wade Phillips.
The Cowboys, yeah.
Like
he's the problem in the Cowboys start at the top, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah, and I think Romo is going to expose that. His injury is going to expose that because even though he's nowhere near as good of a quarterback as they pretend that he is, not having him there is going to expose that he is an integral part of the team, and the problems don't lie with him.
I'll tell you what, though, he masks a lot of the problems. Dallas has a crappy O-line, but Romo is so mobile that you don't realize it half the time. Well, Kitna's kind of a statue back there, so I think he's going to get hit a lot.
Speaking of guys that get hit a lot, I would have preferred getting hit in the face by Cain Vasquez than watching bragging rights.
Yes, Cain Vasquez upset Brock Lesnar.
There
That's
you go.
Kind of big.
And now stupid people think Brock's coming back to wrestling.
Yeah, because he had a stare down with The Undertaker after the show. But yeah, because that wasn't a work at all whatsoever.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody is now, there are a lot of people that are, the day after it happened, there were so many wrestling sites that were predicting, and I don't mean the writers, I mean a lot of fans that thought, oh, well, it's totally planned, that's why he lost the UFC belt. No, he lost the UFC belt. If these people knew anything, here's the basic way to sum up Brock Lesnar. Miserable in wrestling, loves fighting. He hated wrestling, he hated traveling, he hated pretending to be an athlete in wrestling. He loves being in the UFC because, you want to disappear for 6 months, Brock, in between your fights? Go ahead, no problem. Just make sure you come back in time to do some quick interview. He's not coming back. He looked down at The Undertaker because guess what? He doesn't like The Undertaker. Because Undertaker, 5 years ago, now a lot more, on night where you're supposed to put Brock over, goes, I ain't feeling it, boys. I just ain't fucking feeling it. And then a month later goes, I still ain't feeling it. This guy shouldn't be beating me in King of the Ring. But I'll put over Gimpy Glenn.
Well, let me. I'm going to leave you guys with this. I did watch Bragging Rights, and while it wasn't the greatest show in the world,
I heard
made it
Ziggler
good?
and Danielson had one of the best matches.
And I give credit to making this show seem good, and I'm going to leave you guys kind of with this thought. To Matt Stryker.
Yeah.
Matt Stryker kept Michael Cole's bullshit to a minimum. And that made it good.
Absolutely.
Here is a perfect example. Then you're talking about the Dolph Ziggler-Bryan Danielson match. He's literally kicking Ziggler's head off. Well, Cole, no, he isn't, because his head's still attached.
Michael Porter?
Oh, guys, I have to jump in here real quick. There's a host of another wrestling talk show. It's called Wrestle Shoot, who's been on and off going to be coming on our show for the past several years, right? We've never gotten it going because we've had scheduling issues. He's been doing Rob Van Dam's show, who does a show on Wednesday night as well. You didn't hear me say that. Michael Porter just passed away. So my condolences to him and his family. Yeah, he's been he was a former. Yes, he just passed away. He was a WWF ring announcer, and we kind of got to know him a little bit on Facebook and MySpace and all that. Of late, he's been putting out kind of zany messages about his disdain for the government and healthcare and things like that. But wow. Cassie just came in and told me. What's up?
Wow.
That's crazy. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a downer.
Yeah.
Shit. Well, yeah, but he was a WWE ring announcer, and kind of get it back on topic, but I give kudos to Matt Stryker, because he took a Cole and Lawler team that is obviously bored with each other. They have no chemistry. They just don't have it. and he injected something into them where they were actually laughing, sounded like they were enjoying themselves, and you'd be impressed because a show that actually sucked booking-wise was actually enjoyable to watch because the announcers were actually cracking jokes and having fun.
Yeah, well,
Heenan and Monsoon for you.
Well, I'll say this, though, James. There are reports that Lawler doesn't like Stryker. That apparently a couple of months ago, Stryker wanted to sit down and, I guess, come up with, like, I don't want to say a plan, but, like, something and just hammer out some details for the announce team. And Lawler and Cole both kind of blew him off. Apparently Lawler refers to him backstage as a geek. So,
you know what? And I'll be honest, Matt Stryker, there we go. I did not like his announcing job at WrestleMania, but part of me thinks that has something to do with who he was working with. Most of the time, he is one of, if not the best announcer in wrestling today. And I get the feeling from listening to him that he knows his wrestling history, he researches this shit, and he is the only one of the group that sounds like a legitimate sports announcer. Because
Absolutely.
he references the past a lot. Yeah.
He references it. He's obviously a fan, which I think is a requirement if you're gonna call NFL games. If you ask them, I guarantee you, if they're not a player themselves, they will tell you who they grew up idolizing.
Right.
Because they were fans. He clearly is a fan. He clearly knows all this stuff. He clearly knows all the catchphrases of 20 years ago and plus. He is just great. And, I mean, I can't stress enough, if you didn't watch the pay-per-view and you have access to download it online or see YouTube clips of it, just watch it because even though the show wasn't that good, and the match, I really didn't give a rat's ass who won Raw or SmackDown, when Edge got tagged in the ring and he speared whoever the hell he speared, I think it was Miz, Matt Stryker marking out, making it feel like a big deal, kind of made me laugh and kind of think, oh, you know what? At least somebody is acting like they give a shit.
Right.
You know what? We used to say that about JR. Like that's what he brought to things. He brought knowledge, he brought intelligence, and he brought an obvious passion for what he was doing.
Right. I think
when JR was good.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for Jerry Lawler, but you can just get the sense that he's bored. He's been, an announcer now close to 20 years, more or less. I mean, I think he got started, I think his early announcing appearances, late 93 when he started working for the WWE, and even though he was wrestling off and on, he's more or less been an announcer now nearly 20 years. Yeah. I think Jim Ross makes him a little better because I think he feels like, oh, Jim's here. I gotta be really on my top of my game, or I'm gonna make him look bad, and I gotta really be on the top of my game here. And I think he's kind of lost.
Well, I think they also genuinely like each other too, and I don't know that he and Cole don't. I'm not breaking any big stories with that. I just think that it's clear that when you like somebody, you're going to have a better chat rapport with them than when it's obviously forced.
Oh yeah, and the stories are that Lawler needs like cue cards or cues to remind him of wrestlers that are on Raw regularly. If let's just say like he's calling SmackDown stars show up and it's someone that's fairly new, like I'll just use Alberto Del Rio as an example. People have to tell him it's Alberto Del Rio, or else they'll think, who the hell is this guy? Apparently, that was a report when Ventura hosted that both he and Lawler needed cards to remind them of certain names. Now, Ventura is one thing because I'm going to assume that with everything he's doing, Jesse Ventura is not watching wrestling regularly, if at all. But Lawler, there isn't an excuse there because he works for the company, and people might say, well, do you really think everyone on ESPN knows every major college football player or every single player in the NFL? No, but I would assume that they would have a working knowledge of the key people.
There you go. Well, guys, I'm going to call it a night with that thought and let you guys finish up. I know Patrick's going to have to go somewhat early tonight to pick up his sister, who's very cool. What?
I already did it.
You already picked up your sister? Yeah, I told you. She went to go see Styx, and while I like Styx, and Tommy Shaw used to date Missy Hyatt, if you want to give your sister any kind of Tommy Shaw is one of the singers of Styx, by the way, who later went on to play with Ted Nugent and Damn Yankees. I know all this shit. That's a little tidbit there for you. Very cool band, and very cool. I'm actually impressed with your sister for going to see them.
She's a big fan.
There you go. She seems like she likes a lot of that 70s stuff, Queen and Styx. And
she does.
Very cool. Well, I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to call it a night, but I again want to send my condolences out to Michael Porter, who I talked to less than 2 or 3 months ago. That kind of sucks, man. But I'm going to go up and watch 2.5 Men and watch a bunch of boobs and fart jokes and forget it. So have a good night, guys.
All right, have fun, man. Alrighty, that was James Walsh, Lord and Master of the Wrestling Epicenter. Nick, you and I have the next few minutes to talk about wrestling. So, what is going on? The story I had in my mind was Vince McMahon suing the Secretary of State for Connecticut.
Yes. You know what? There's a lot of wrestling news going on, so you know what? We don't have to review bragging rights. You want a review of bragging rights? God bless that. All right, that was our bragging rights, everybody. Undertaker sucks, Kane sucks, John Cena sucks. No one cares about Raw versus SmackDown. Daniel Bryan's awesome, Ziggler's awesome, Michael Cole's a fucking idiot. But anyway, so let's talk about Vince McMahon suing the Connecticut Secretary of State.
He's like a child.
Yeah, for those who may not understand what is going on exactly, as you're probably aware of if you've been on the wrestling websites at all, you must be aware that Linda McMahon is running for Senate. Well, because of Linda's close association with the WWE, it was ruled that WWE merchandise would count as political propaganda in a polling place. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's technically illegal. I'll just use the examples of what's going on out here. Right now in Nebraska, we have a Senate race between a man named Tom White and Lee Terry. I could not go into, the place where I'm going to vote with a shirt that said, Lee Terry for Congress. Because you're not supposed to have political propaganda anywhere in a polling place. That was the rule.
You can in Maryland, they just don't enforce it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's up to, and please, people are kind of getting the idea that, there are going to be cops outside these places dragging WWE fans away. No, it's up to the individual people to enforce it. I just know this because Tom Osborne, used to be the Husker football coach, has run for a number of political offices out here. And let's just say that wearing Husker gear has been somewhat discouraged to these places in the past. And
you know what really solidified the WWE merchandise as political propaganda? Stand up for the WWE campaign.
Exactly. So basically, Connecticut rules this. You can't wear it. So Vince McMahon, as you said, as he typically has a habit to do, throws a hissy fit and sues the Secretary. Now, to be fair, he has apparently won this lawsuit, or they said, all right, drop it if you don't want to deal with this. So now, ladies and gentlemen, you can wear your bright purple John Cena T-shirt when you go to vote for Linda McMahon.
Have fun with that. Oh, God. It wasn't even really an issue that was worth fighting over. Right. It's Vince being a child, and that's exactly what it is.
Right. It'd be like me if let's just say you wrote you put your video blog and you put review of TNA Impact and WWE Superstars, and you review TNA Impact first, and I threw a fit at you because you should review Superstars first because that's what airs first, dummy. No, it wasn't an issue even fighting over.
I know, it's just another example of Vince McMahon settling into dementia.
Yeah. Oh, man, and it's so clear. He asked, what's funny is, during these videos and everything, he acts Linda McMahon is no longer associated with the WWE. Well, she may no longer technically work for them, but she's still married to you. And
Stephanie McMahon appeared in one of her political ads.
Yes, the head writer of WWE, Stephanie McMahon, appeared in one of her creative ads. Triple H is out knocking on the door for people to rally behind Linda. And he may not be appearing on screen, but he has off-screen responsibilities, or at least an office in Titan Tower.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And just a couple of days before the election, you're the one running a Fan Appreciation Day in Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, they're discriminating against my wife. It's like, well, you idiot, you're the one trying to use your wrestling company to help your wife. And this is the same guy that went out and hired every major superstar in the 70s and the 80s and said, oh, I'm not rating anybody. People are just choosing to work for me. Yet when people go and work for Ted Turner, it's like, oh, my God, Ted Turner, this fucking billionaire is trying to raid me. He's trying to shut down my poor little family-owned company.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's yeah, it's always a double standard when it happens to you or whatever bullshit goes through Vince's mind.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about Lesnar and Undertaker there, which, by the way, getting back to Lesnar and Undertaker, I have to point this out. For those of you who think that these two are going to face each other at WrestleMania 27, and I didn't need Dana White to tell me this because apparently Dana White has already confirmed that it's not going to happen, which I can't believe people honestly needed that question answered. But it's not going to happen because, A, Brock is signed exclusively to UFC, and that's not going to change by Mania. Sorry. And B, do you really think that Brock's going to come back for one night just to wrestle Undertaker in a match that Taker's not going to lay down for him, so
right.
Because Taker's not going to lose the streak to somebody who's not coming back, and why the hell would Lesnar come back for one night just to lose? Doesn't make sense.
So the thing, I don't want to say he hates it, but Dana White doesn't like to associate pro wrestling and the UFC, and some people can think that's stupid. But, he doesn't because I think he likes to draw the line of saying, we're real. We don't stage anything. Cain Velasquez knocked Brock Lesnar out because he was the better fighter on that night. Not because I thought it would be a better storyline for the Mexican audience.
Right.
So, that's just it. Dana White's not gonna say all of a sudden, oh, sure, I'll let Brock go work a wrestling match and blow all the credibility I've spent the last 3 years building into this guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've got so Brock. If anybody thought Brock and Undertaker were coming back, I mean, maybe Undertaker would like it because maybe he thinks that. I know Undertaker, and apparently people don't know he's a huge mark for UFC fighting if you didn't know already. I'm sure he'd love it because he'd think he'd get the win and he could choke out an actual UFC fighter. It is a Hell's Gate or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I think Taker strikes me as one of those guys that, and I don't want to knock Shawn Michaels, but Shawn Michaels is kind of like this too, where he has to get his win back. And Lesnar beat Undertaker almost every single time they faced each other.
Right. Despite what Undertaker...
What?
Despite what Undertaker wanted. For people that don't know, every time, like when Brock and Undertaker were feuding, and that was when they were pushing Brock as the guy, Undertaker would always go, I just don't feel it. And that's kind of his line when he doesn't want to put somebody over. Which, he says, I just didn't feel it that night. But no, what he's meaning is, this guy isn't beating me. You're not going to put him over with me. Vince, you better damn listen to me.
And apparently Vince overruled him, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, that's why Brock was something special. Brock was a young guy they actually had legit interest in pushing. Unfortunately, I don't want to say that the machine shoot him out and spit him out, but just everything you see and hear about Brock Lesnar is like watch UFC primetime. Pretty much everything every other word about him is about how much he values his privacy and being able to be home with his family every day. That doesn't really lend itself to the wrestling lifestyle.
No, and I think Lesnar, unfortunately, because he left the WWE the way he did, which is basically, I'm done, and once his contract was up, he up and left. I think that discouraged the WWE from making a big star again, because Lesnar was really the last guy that they really pushed to the moon and really tried to make on the map. Even though I personally wasn't a big fan of the guy. I'll be honest right now. I thought he was a great physical specimen, but I just never really gravitated to him. But they promoted him like he was the main eventer, and they tried to get the most out of him, and then he up and left, so it was like a waste of money. And I think they're afraid to do that with anybody again, which is why you see so many shitty pushes.
I hate to say this to you, Patrick, but what about Sheamus and what about Cena and Orton? I mean, they may not have gotten like the immediate super push like him, but I mean, they have kind of pushed those guys. So I can see what you're trying to say, that he was kind of the last guy to like. I think they were like so driven and so focused to get right there. Cena almost kind of, I don't want to say back into the title, but he was on SmackDown at the time, and it was kind of like, well, Eddie didn't really work, and he kind of went nuts with the belts. We can't keep it on JBL, so it's either Kurt Angle or we give it to this new guy. Let's try the new guy.
Yeah, and I think Cena, the reason he's in the spot he's in is because he'll do anything that the WWE tells him to do. Which in some sense is a good thing in that he's a good representative of the company, but in other ways it's a bad thing because he's just a tool. Everything he does just enhances that image of him being a tool. Just look on TV. Wade Barrett is making a fool out of him.
Yeah. You know what they could try to do? They could revive that Vince has an illegitimate son story. Make it Wade Barrett. And something could say, oh, like father, like son.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, if he found out that Wade Barrett was, in fact, Vince McMahon's son, I'm sure John Cena would do all this stuff with a big smile on his face.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm looking at Survivor Series, and the main event they have set, which is Barrett versus Orton, which apparently their first match tanked like hell. Everybody's giving it bad reviews. Which, you know, if the full, like, internet is giving it bad reviews, you know it was bad, because normally WWE kind of gets a slap on the wrist. They've got this main event again for Survivor Series, only this time Cena's the referee. And given the stipulations, I think they have a perfect chance to turn Cena heel and make him, like, the biggest heel in the company.
They do, but, you know, it's almost like, I said this, to me, it just seems so clear what they're going to do. Cena is going to snap, he's going to get fired, he's going to find a loophole, jump through it, come back and feud with Barrett at WrestleMania. You know, because unfortunately what I could see happen is they could do the whole thing where, you know, Barrett, you know, Orton's down, Orton's pinned, and Cena is like so reluctant about it. It's like, what? And my whole like, no, John, not this way. You can't do this. 2, King screams, it's gonna happen. And Cena just goes 3, and they're gonna go, John Cena hated to do that, but he had to do it. All right, the British lady who runs Blog Talk Radio just told me that we have 90 seconds left. So, is there anything you want to get in, or are you interested in going over? Yeah, let's go over a little, because we kind of want to go to the world of TNA and talk a little bit that's going on over there, because we got some injuries to report.
Oh, injury, yeah. There's at least one, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. So, by the way, if you are interested in the not being spoiled about anything, ladies and gentlemen, please turn off now and, you know, watch TNA Impact the next couple weeks and see how it unfolds. So I'll give you, because we will discuss spoilers in this.
Oh, yeah, and I've got some big feelings about the spoilers, so let's go.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of last week's Impact, basically Mr. Anderson has a pretty severe concussion. As a result, TNA is pulling from his scheduled title match with Jeff Hardy at Turning Point. And they're going to replace him with a wrestler that Patrick compares to Jack Swagger.
Not the talent, but the way he's been put, the way he got into this spot, it's kind of the Jack Swagger thing. But, yeah, do you want me to say his name?
Yeah, well, I'll say his name. It's Matt Morgan, ladies and gentlemen, and I won't go into in-depth, but basically they'll do a storyline on Impact where Morgan will kind of object to some of the actions of Immortal because he feels that they've gone too far with this particular thing. And
right, and
he will turn, and then in the next couple of weeks, he will find his way into the world title match. I got to kind of see how this all plays out myself, because, I mean, there's a little bit that I kind of understand, but I hate judging things exactly from spoilers, because there's all these little things that you don't necessarily see and you don't necessarily hear and doesn't really get reported. And then when you see it on TV, it's like, oh, so that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, I do have a problem with this, and I understand that you lost Anderson to a concussion, which real good job on that chair shot there, Jeff. That was great. That was a pretty dangerous looking chair shot that he gave him last week. But what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. So they put Matt Morgan into the spot. I understand when your challenger goes down, you have to go to Plan B, but this is the best you can do, and it's nothing against Morgan. I think Morgan's a great talent, but this is a guy who's really been a non-factor in the heavyweight division since Bound for Glory last year, where he lost to Kurt Angle. And it's one of those things where I wish a fully functioning ranking system without fan voting or owner bias, which that was not a very good ranking system, TNA, sorry, was in place so that people would earn title shots based on wins and losses. Morgan, it has been such a non-factor in everything that this just seems random, and I don't know, this is just an underwhelming main event, and not through the fault of the talent. Well, I guess I can blame Jeff because he injured Anderson, but...
Yeah, but, Patrick, here's kind of the thing. I can kind of accept this because we have to have a world title match at this point. I know some people are thinking, well, you don't always have to have a big world title match. I know that's one of the points you made on the forums, but we've gone the last 4 months more or less without a world champion and with no major world title matches. And to be fair, I don't think Morgan's going to win the belt. I think this will be kind of, okay, he got the shot, but I'm going to compare it to Patrick Cote, where he gets the shot at a time where Patrick Cote got a shot against Anderson Silva in the UFC, and it really wasn't because Cote was this dominating, great fighter. It was kind of because all the other main guys that would have challenged Silva otherwise either A, been beaten, B, were injured, or C, were otherwise booked in something else. And I understand what you're saying. I think part of it will have to be how they follow up. Because Morgan is one of those guys that a lot of people always see as a huge main eventer in the making. We're kind of reaching the point where it's like, if that's ever going to truly happen for him, it's got to be in the next couple months or within the next year. Or else he's just going to be kind of that guy that's always a bodyguard or always somebody's tag team partner. And I could see where, unfortunately, I think there have been times where he's gotten, heat, and it's kind of in the Motor City Machine Gun effect where if certain people on the booking team don't think you're, worthy of a push, they won't give it to you. I think that's kind of happened with Morgan a couple times, and I could see where even if he doesn't win the title, but if this is like the thing that gets him in that main event picture, and after this he winds up feuding with, AJ, or, and winds up working against Kaz, in some, big matches where he's going to be featured regularly on Impact week to week in the ring. He's going to be, put in like a semi-main event slot on the pay-per-views. That could be the benefit here. I think a lot of it has to do with how you follow up, because I do agree in terms of the swagger thing, you are taking a guy that does not have a great win-loss record on screen and getting a world title shot all of a sudden. But I think a lot of that will also be how you follow it up. I think the swagger thing could have worked if they had been smart about how they booked him after the big push. They weren't.
I would have said after he won Money in the Bank, that should have been the genesis of the push, and that should have led to a slow build-up over time. But they did, they took a 6-month, 7-month build and rushed it in literally 2 nights.
Well, yeah, because apparently they did that because they had the Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming up, and they didn't want multiple guys walking around with Money in the Bank briefcases.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Miz still has his, doesn't he?
Yeah, Miz has his. Kane cashed in that night, which led to that so wonderful feud with the fucking Undertaker,
Again, I have to point this out. It's nice to know that there's somebody the Undertaker is willing to put over multiple times. It's just too bad it's somebody who's just as over the hill as he is.
Right. Oh, God. It's been a rehash of everything they've ever done. And it's like, they did the whole, Buried Alive thing. It's Buried Alive, and then afterwards his music plays and something shoots up, and this time it was a symbol. Last time it was his hand. It's like, you know what? It's like, enough's enough, It's like how much longer do we have to do this stuff?
He can't possibly last too much longer, and guess what? He's going to be off again to have surgery on his shoulder. He's going to be out for 4 months. Right. So it's like, this is why he needs to be, at most, a special attraction guy, because he's not there for most of the year.
You know what? I'm even going to go a step further. I don't want him as a special attraction guy, because you know what? He's not physically capable of doing that either. I don't care what people say. His main matches against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania are overrated, and I'm so sick and tired of how they were the greatest matches of the last 2 years. I'm gonna call bullshit to the both of those. They were overrated. Basically, okay, I'll hit my finisher, now you hit your finisher, but that's a whole other thing I'll go on eventually. But it's like at this point, either he's got to say enough's enough, or Vince McMahon's got to say enough's enough. Unfortunately, neither one is willing to do that, and there's not a writer in the WWE that maybe even remotely would have the power, except for Stephanie, to do that, and that's not going to happen. I can't see Stephanie McMahon saying, well, it's time to hang him up. Maybe Triple H could be that kind of person, but he really has no room to talk.
Well, I don't know. Is he done or what?
He's going to come back for that fan appreciation night, and they're billing it as one night only. But it would not surprise me if sometime during the Royal Rumble we hear, it's all about the game, and how you play it. And then Michael Cole goes, oh my!
Oh my! He says that a lot, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, Jim Ross had Swabber Knocker, business is about to pick up, stop in a mud hole and walking it dry. Michael Cole has, oh my! And vintage Shawn Michaels, vintage Finlay, vintage Undertaker. So what, you're calling them wine?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, any other TNA news? Stemming from the spoilers, I'm trying to think of.
Well, the other TNA news, I know this is going to break your heart, but I mean, it's really sad to say this, but unfortunately, Chris Sabin probably done for the next 6 months with that torn ACL.
What?
He tore an ACL in a match with Inky Ink and Generation Me. I'm kidding, Patrick. I'm kidding.
God damn it! I can't tell when you're joking or when you're being serious. You're like, come on, the guns are like one of the things I'm enjoying most in wrestling. Don't take that from me.
I knew that was going to be your response. Because when I said that, I was like, I just want to see how badly Patrick freaks out.
Well, yeah, I was like, and you get me every time. Every time. I'm gullible.
Yeah. See, Eric hated my sense of humor.
Eric hated it?
Yeah, because I would do that a lot to him, and he would always be like, God, why do you come up with these weird little stories? You're like someone that claims your birthday's on the 24th, and then laughs about it, because like, no, my birthday's on the 25th. God, you should see what I do at my job sometimes, because I'll tell people that, like, certain products are going to be discontinued or unavailable or are being recalled, and I actually made somebody cry once.
Wow, really? What was the item in question, just out of curiosity?
Marlboro Lights, and it was like a young teenage kid. And you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, I try to read people. Don't think I do this to be a jerk. I do this to kind of just, because if it's like a younger person, I think I can get away with it. And 99.9% of the time, they laugh with me. They find it funny. Because they're like, oh my God, you're so good at that. You're so serious. I'm like, yeah, I told the guy the Marlboro Lights were going away because the state was sponsoring Snuff Out Week to get rid of cancer. It's like some like bullshit event, where cigarettes can be sold.
Like, he was like, oh, my God, I got to go to Council Bluffs. I'm like, no, they got rid of it in Council Bluffs, too, because it's a neighboring county. It's like, oh, my God, I got to drive all the way to Kansas City. Which, for people to understand, I live in he suddenly jumped, like, a fairly large gap all the way over to Kansas City when there are a lot of other cities in Iowa to go to. But then finally I let him in, and he actually had tear in his eye.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're real good at that, though.
Yeah, I am a jackass, ladies and gentlemen. But
That's all right.
Yeah, so really there's no other big TNA news. Hulk Hogan's doing a new reality show, apparently.
Oh, goody.
Yeah, well, it's called Finding Hulk Hogan, and I'm like, really? Has he been lost? Like, did he get on the Mummy one day and not come back to the tapings, and that's why he hasn't been on Impact the last couple of weeks?
I think it was because of his back surgery, and he just can't physically be there.
Yeah. I know. Apparently it's going to be, though, about, like, everything he's gone through, Nick's accident, his divorce, stuff like that, returning to wrestling, and there's my absolute hope. I hope that this is such a hit that he leaves TNA, and then I can have my company back.
Yeah. Well, what's his?
I know it's not all Hogan, and I know he's not in the writing room, but I think his presence causes some of this thing, whether we want it to or not. And that's not really meant to be a shot on Hogan, but I feel like there's almost a WCW effect where it's like, well, we're paying him all this money, we kind of have to use him for the big role. When in reality, he'd be better off as like a special attraction guy that would come in and, like, I don't know, serve as a referee or something, or just some guy you would see only on the bigger shows, like Jack Tunney back in the day.
Yep. Yeah, and what's his name? The guy at the torch, Wade Keller, I think his name is. He wrote a long article about how the Bischoff-Hogan experiment has been a failure. No shit, Sherlock, really? I think most of us figured that out in March.
Yeah, well, writing a whole article about that is like me writing an article saying the Dallas Cowboys season has been a disappointment.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Here's another one. Eli Manning's pretty good.
He's good when he wants to be. Like, it was. That game was so frustrating because it started off insanely ugly. Then in the middle, we just kicked ass. And then we finished even worse than where we started. It was just, ugh.
Yeah. Oh, this is something I kind of want to talk about. I don't know, it just kind of made me laugh. Apparently, Maurice, one of our not-so-favorites around here, she did an article, an interview where she talked about WWE being PG, and she went, quote, well, it's not like it was in the old days where all the girls would be wearing G-strings. My God, I would never wear that. And I'm like, yeah, you just posed naked in Playboy.
Oh, my God, yeah. She was a Playboy. Look, I would never do that.
And maybe what she was saying
how everybody is, like, squeaky clean now.
I think part of that's it. I think it's also, like, maybe we kind of, like, the whole sentence that she needed to say didn't come out completely. Like, maybe she should have said, I would never do that, where I know there are children watching. Because, I mean, it is different with Playboy, which is supposed to be an adult-oriented magazine, even though it often finds 13-year-old hands or younger. So it just kind of sounds like she's saying, yeah, I never wear that, but yeah, but you did post some Playboy.
Yeah, possibly. It's the same thing as, like, Jericho saying, it's like, oh, it's so much better now that it's PG. And it just sounds like a lot of people just towing the company line. Speaking of which, I found a clip online on YouTube of John Cena on Howard Stern's show back in 2006. One of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
Now, when you say funny, do you mean because he was actually funny, or do you mean because he came off being made fun of?
Do you want to hear John Cena talk about his sex life and the girls that he picks up while on the road?
No.
Well, I did, and it was kind of funny. It was actually hilarious to listen to squeaky clean Mr. PG John Cena talk about having sex with a 280-pound woman.
Holy hell!
I know, right?
So wait, so you're saying that John Cena was the inspiration for that awful Mike Awesome gimmick? I know that came years before Cena, but I'm trying to make a joke here, people.
Yeah, I think he might have learned from it. That should be his new gimmick. Cena could do it better.
The fat shit joke. Oh, well, yeah. That was one of Russo's worst ideas ever.
Yeah, we have this big monster guy, and it's the same thing with Daniel Bryan or Lance Storm, where it's like we have this serious wrestler, but we got to make him a dancer, or we got to try and make him a ladies' man, or something. And here we go with Mike Awesome. You got this big monster guy who's an athlete unlike anybody else at his time. I mean, nobody else was quite like Mike Awesome in that time period. And
no one's really.
It's like, we got to make him the disco guy or the fat chick thriller. And I don't know. I just don't get it.
Yeah, if for anyone that ever held a grudge for Mike Awesome for leaving ECW like he did, I think he paid his penance.
Exactly. And I'll say this again, Paul Heyman, your big guy who everybody on the internet loves. I mean, I'll admit that Heyman was a creative genius, but as far as handling money, he was not very good. And the proof was in the fact that he could not pay his world heavyweight champion. I don't know about you, but if my boss doesn't pay me, I'm out the door.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's a list of there was a book that they did about ECW, and it listed guys that were owed money, and the author even goes, and this is just what was officially admitted to. There are several other recoupable losses that were not factored in, and several wrestlers were calculated they were so highly in debt it was uncalculable. And it's damn, Rob Van Dam over $100,000, Tommy Dreamer $50,000.
Damn.
Yeah. So, so I should actually go into work now, Patrick, so.
Okie dokie, we're about done here anyway, so thank you, Nick, for coming on with me. Thank you to James for setting up that wonderful interview with Rip Rogers, and thank you to Rip Rogers for coming on. It was a blast having him on. And thank you, everyone else, for listening. Tune in next week where we'll be sure to give you another great show. I am Patrick Kelly saying good night, everybody.